Fashionista Chiori will cut her enemies' lives short, and today I'm gonna tell you how to build her best. My name is Juice, and let's get into it. So, what artifacts does this clothing icon desire? None other than 4-piece Husk of Opulent Dreams. The 2-piece providing her 30% def is absolutely fantastic, as she craves such a stat dearly. She can easily stack up and maintain the 4-piece, seeing as her main role is dealing geo damage whether she is on or off field. You can get up to 24% geo damage bonus plus def percent by fully stacking up this choice. What I like about this set is that it tailors to all aspects of Chiori's damage profile, as opposed to only one part. Otherwise, you can opt for 4-piece Golden Troop. The main tasty thing about this set is all that skill damage bonus. That's the main meat of her damage share after all. However, I don't like that this doesn't cater to her other damage sources, such as the burst and geo-infused normal attacks. This set is pretty nice for an off-field Chiori, because she doesn't care about this drawback as much. She'll mostly be cooking with her skill, yet her DPS playstyle on the other hand, yeah, it doesn't agree with Troop as much. Even so, it's still your second best bet no matter the playstyle, so you can use this for good on a sub-DPS Chiori if your stat rolls are excellent. Otherwise, use it as a placeholder until you can get 4-piece Husk if you're a DPS Chiori fan. 2-piece mix and match sets include 2-piece skill percent, def percent, geo percent, and attack percent. As for main stats, simple. Go for def percent, geo percent, crit percent. This is the most standard setup for Chiori, no matter what kind of playstyle you intend to employ. It will consistently be her best in slot layout no matter what. However, she is a dual scaling unit. Not split scaling, but dual scaling. That means she benefits from both def percent and attack percent. So I'm sure you may be wondering, are attack percent main stats competitive on Chiori by any means? Well, when it comes to her stands, it doesn't matter what playstyle you're using. You still want to opt for a def percent stands. Being 9% worse is pretty significant. I will say that being within 91% of her max potential isn't exactly chump tier either, so if you have an excellent attack percent sans, use it until you can acquire a decent def percent sans. The effectiveness of the goblet you choose does depend on which playstyle you use, but as you can see, def percent isn't much crazier by any wild margin. Attack percent on the other hand, kinda falls off of her sub-DPS build. Yet, whether you're gonna use her as an on-fielder or as a sub-DPS, go for geo percent when you can. It's clearly her best option no matter what. As for substats priority, simple, go for this. ER isn't all that great for Chiori Navia teams. Allow me to explain just why that is. With Chiori via teams, it's actually more effective to burst every other rotation, and invest all those potential ER rolls into damage-based stats instead. So don't fret about her ER, because as long as you're able to burst every other rotation no matter your team, then you will be fine. If your team provides you enough geoparticles to constantly burst without having to dump her with ER, even better. I've still included the average ER requirements for Chiori via teams for those of you who are interested. Know that if you're playing her in any other sort of geo team, then you want to acquire enough ER for her to burst off cooldown every time. No matter which way you'd like to play this character, you'll find that the same sets will be best for her across playstyles. At the end of the day, Husk is strong boxable, so for the highest amount of resin efficiency, I'd farm Troop as its partner set is excellent, then strong box for Husk. A fashion designer needs many unique tools to craft their unique wares. What would Chiori's blades of choice be? Well, her best in slot will undoubtedly be the Uraku Misugiri. There's many goodies that you get from this. The humongous crit stick is pretty obvious, very nice indeed. Increases to both her normal attack percent and skill percent are conducive to both of her best in slot playstyles, which is very nice indeed. She herself will be able to proc the second half of the passive. Additional def percent is also a splendid boost to her. Plus, I also have to glaze this sword in general. It's really freaking good in terms of account value, so if you're pulling for Shilunen's weapon and you get this, don't be sad, it's fantastic for all normal attack or skill-based sword DPSs or sub-DPSs. Bonus points if they have a Geo in their team to fully proc it. Speaking of the cat's weapon, Peak Patrol Song is also going to be a super formidable option. Def percent, damage percent, everything you could ever want on Chiori, it's all here. So if you lose Uraku to this, well then you're in luck, because this option just so happens to also be very good. Wolf's Fang, specifically at higher refinements, is also very nice on the cutting edge of fashion. A good rule of thumb to follow is that if a sword can boost your elemental skill damage by any means, then it will most likely be decently viable on Chiori. The burst buffs are also very appreciated. R5 Harbinger of Dawn is of course strong thanks to all of the crit it provides at max stacks. As always, the flaw with this choice is consistency issues. If you have Farina in her team, or if you're on-fielding her and she gets hit, or if you're facing off against Thrift Hounds, then you no longer reap such bountiful rewards from Harbinger. Yet, if you're able to gain some sort of consistency with it, such as through using Zhongli for instance, then it's a great budget pick. Flute of Epzitzol is very neat on Chiori as well. The passive is short and sweet, getting the point across immediately. It's as simple as, wow, this woman really likes def percent, huh? Lovely craftable for her, plus you can improve upon it with refinements. Festering Desire provides a lot of skill percent, and as for the ER, it's fine, but if you're a Chiori Navia player, then chasing ER isn't even all that good to do. Also, I think barely anybody has this anymore. Fossil players, shout yourselves out in the comments. Cinnabar Spindle looks great on paper, but the 50% uptime really hampers it. To elaborate, the passive triggers once every 1.5 seconds. Both of Chiori's dolls attack at the same time. Therefore, only one of them is getting buffed, which sadly results in a 50% uptime. Other than that, the def percent stick is neat. I wouldn't bother with other 5-star sword options. If you have them, sure, use them on her. They will be better than Chiori's free-to-play options. But please don't pull for a 5-star weapon specifically for her that isn't her sig, because Uraku is such a comical damage increase over other 5-star options barring Patrol Song. Like, Page AC being 12 to 20% worse is nasty. She isn't the most budget-friendly character when it comes to weapons, but cheap, accessible options for her do definitely exist. Who'll be on Chiori's fashion design team? Well, there are 4 different main applications that you can use her for. We'll go over them one by one. First off, Ito Mono Geo. The cutting edge of fashion works at her absolute best in these teams. This is because of her desire to work in comps that have geo constructs. Mono Geo teams have those in spades. She ups the team's overall damage profile by contributing her chunky sub DPS. She actually has really nice numbers to offer here. The lady will be one of the best and slot options for this team. Example teams include Ito, Chiori, Goro, Zhongli. Ito, the cutting edge of fashion, Goro, Bennett. Secondly, Navia teams. She isn't best in slot here anymore because 4-piece Intercity Kachina and eventually Shilonen have replaced her fully in this role. With that being said, if you're still interested in playing her in this role, the damage she offers will be more effective to the overall team than whatever Albedo or Zhongli could provide. Yes, she only offers geo numbers and geo application, yet even without any constructs, her damage made her the most worth using here. Not anymore because of how a free 4-star replaced her, but if you own a C1 R1 Chiori, then she will be better than Kachina here. Unfortunately, Shilonen will always be better here, no matter what. Example teams include Navia, Chiori, Bennett, Farina, Navia, second Geo Lady, Farina, Xian Yun. Thirdly, you can use her as an on-field main DPS. Her team's damage is about as good as an Ito team's before he got Chiori added to his core comp. So, not very good, but regardless, this is still a viable option. She plays quite smoothly and can utilize characters such as Kachina thanks to the Drill Kid summon counting as a Geo construct, while also providing Cinder City buffs. If you have the Kid C4, the cutting edge of fashion enjoys that too. My biggest gripe with this team is that this is one of the absolute few situations where C6 Bennett cooks you. C0 to 5 only, otherwise her normal attacks get converted into pyro damage. This is really stupid in my opinion, as even Navia's normal attacks at C0 don't get overridden. Basically, every important fusion-based character doesn't get overridden, but Chiori does. This isn't grounds to not C6 your Bennett in my opinion. I still would if I were you, but it does lock her into being a mono Geo DPS. You could consider playing her with Farina too, then having a healer at the end. Example teams include Chiori, Goro, C0 to 5 Bennett, Farina, Fashionista, Kachina, Goro, Yalan, The Cutting Edge, Albedo, Goro, Zhongli. Then, last but not least, her double Geo core. You could easily slap this core onto the end of any setup that you're using that doesn't get ruined by Geo application. Simple as that. It's fairly comfortable, Chiori gets to enjoy the benefits of having a construct by her side, therefore this core actually provides an impressive amount of DPS. You can use either Kachina or Zhongli for maximum effectiveness. Example teams include Linny, Bennett, Chiori, Kachina, Nervalette, Fischl, the Weaver of Epic Cloves, Zhongli, Chloriander, Kujosara, the Dual Wielder, and Kachina. There's plenty more teams that you could apply the double Geocore to. Those were just a few samples. Yet how does the cutting edge of fashion work? Well, her normals deal 4 simple physical strikes. Very cool. As for her skill, she will summon Tomato, a doll which deals AoE geo damage. If there's a geo construct on field, or if you make one while one doll is there, then another doll will be summoned. You can only have 2 dolls at a time through these means. Holding her skill means that you can aim it as well. Very nice for traveling. Her burst will deal 1 large nuke of geo damage to the enemy. This kit is very straightforward, but honestly, I like that. As for Ascension passives, simple. Chiori's A1 has 2 different effects depending on what you do. Tapestry will have her switch to the next character in your party if you press her skill after using it, which will enable her Geo Tomatoes to do coordinated attacks next to your current on-field unit. If you do a normal attack after using her skill, then she enters the tailoring state. She'll gain a 5-second long Geo Infusion, which is what allows her to be played as an on-field Geo DPS. Nice. If you don't choose which state she goes into, then she will automatically choose the Geo Infused state. As for her A4, you get a tidy 20% geo damage bonus after somebody creates a geo construct. The uptime on this is pretty long, which I quite enjoy. You'll like that too. As for talent priority, simple, go for this. This applies to both of her playstyles. The fact that Troop is still Chiori's second best set even when you on-field her goes to show that her skill is incredibly important. Don't underestimate it. Her burst is a highly effective nuke, so don't ignore it either. If you don't intend on on-fielding Chiori whatsoever, then you can ignore her normals. Otherwise, of course, get those beefed up if you want to play her as a main DPS. Her clothing brand is known to be one of the finest in all of Fontaine, so if you want a piece, then you gotta pay up. So let's talk Constellations. This removes the restrictiveness of her second Geo doll, allowing her to play with Geos that don't offer constructs far more effectively, e.g. Navia teams. What sweetens the deal even further is the neat AoE increase that her Geo dolls get. You also get her Geo damage bonus no matter what. Great C1 for her as it resolves many of her inherent issues. This will summon a smaller Geo doll next to your on-field character after Chiori uses her burst. It isn't the same type of doll as the Tomatoes, and it's a 10-second duration. Having more ER on Chiori will start to matter at this stage. Great C2 as it's another unrestricted increase to your DPS output. This increases the talent level of her main damage source by +3, so naturally a very strong con. This allows you to summon more tiny dolls, the same type as the one from her C2. You gain 1 from her C2, then up to 3 from her C4, therefore allowing you to have a nice amount of up to 4 dolls. A delicious +3 to her burst, a welcome improvement. This turns her into a way more insane main DPS. She becomes the cutting edge of DPSing at this stage, and now you want to level up her normal attacks more than her burst at this stage. If restrictiveness isn't a problem for you, aka you're an Ito main, then Uraku is a better initial investment. Otherwise, if you want to play her constructless, go for C1. After you get C1 R1, there's no need to go any further than that, but her whole Constellation lineup is pretty good, so go as far as you'd like after that. Chiori is definitely a unit. She is a Geo 5-star character in Genshin Impact. Even so, at least she has a splendid design, fantastic voice acting, and a fantastic attitude to boot. Even if she's not the strongest unit around, she's certainly one of the feistiest. I can definitely see why somebody would be a big fan of her. Definitely hope she receives some well-deserved buffs in the future. All they'd really have to do is create more construct-based characters for her to support, or somehow buff Ito team so that Ito Mono Geo is more worth playing on the whole. Comment your own ideas down below. Hopefully this video was able to get your Chiori slicing her enemies apart. This has been Juice, signing out, and do you think she'd be the type of person to use the worst gear ever in an RPG because it looks good, or would her I don't care attitude lead her to wear goofy looking high-end gear?